from breaking backboards to 6 players on the court, these are the weird NBA rules that you didn't know exist. Everyone knows that you're only allowed to play basketball with 5 players on the court. Each NBA team might have a roster of 15 players, but they can only have 5 on the court at any one time. But there is a pretty weird rule about what happens when there are 6 players on an NBA court. There used to be a rule that if one team had 6 players on the court and they scored without the referees noticed,
I think you watch this and Brook Boss from the corner turns another 3.
then the points still counted. So teams used to have to find sneaky ways to try to get 6 players onto the court because the points would count until the referees noticed. Pretty strange rule so you can see why the NBA decided to get rid of it a long time ago. If you thought that was crazy, wait until you hear that the NBA has actually planned out a rule in case there is a major accident. If there is an accident and at least 5 players from a single NBA team die, then this triggers an emergency draft. Every other team can protect 5 players, while the affected team could draft any player who is not protected. Of course, they can only pick 1 player per team. Otherwise, the affected team could purposefully target one of the teams in their division to weaken them. It might seem like a bit of crazy planning from the league, but it kind of makes sense to have that sort of thing. It's like life insurance. You're never going to use it, but it's nice that it is there. Still a pretty weird rule anyway, even if it is slightly smart. The rules only keep getting stranger. I mean, it's the sort of rule that makes you think the NBA are just making it up as they go along. For a long time, NBA players were not allowed to dunk before a game. That's right. They had to just wander up slowly to the basket and lay the ball in, instead of slamming home a dunk to get the fans hyped up. How are you going to get the fans excited for an incredible game when you can't even dunk before a game? There were some pretty boring reasons behind the rule as well. It is so that the rims in the basket are not damaged before a game even starts. Still, that was sucking the fun right out of warm-ups. So thank God that the NBA got rid of that rule. The league doesn't even control what players do in warm-ups, but they even stop players from getting the tattoos they want. The NBA has a rule which states that you can't have commercial logos on your body. It is mainly because the NBA has a lot of sponsors who pay a lot of money to be advertised on NBA TV. The league don't get any of the money if players just get a tattoo of the sponsor right on their body. Caught out Charlotte Hornets point guard LaMelo Ball. He had tattooed just below his left ear that said LF, short for La France. Not only is that his middle name, but it is also the name of his clothing brand. So the league made him put a little plaster over the tattoo to cover it. Players cannot be happy with that rule for sure. Next up, you might be surprised to hear there are a set of rules which even tell teams how much they can rest their players. One of the insane things you might not know is that the NBA has a razor-tight and very strict rest policy. Teams are only allowed to rest 1 star player per game, and they have to make sure that these star players are never rested for national TV games. The rules also make it clear that the NBA much prefers for teams to rest their players at home rather than when they are playing away. You also can't shut their stars players down if they are not injured. Damn, man, that is a lot of rules. The league really does not want teams resting their players, and so there really is a lot of rules around rest. If you thought that rule was harsh, that is not even the meanest rule imposed by the league.
Puts it on the floor. And stops it. He brought it down. He brought the whole goal down. Goodness.
It has got to be painful to shatter the backboard on a dunk. But after you have picked yourself up, dusted off the glass, NBA players have another pain that they've got to go through. If you dunk and the backboard shatters, then the bucket doesn't even count. Worse than that, the player who broke the backboard is given a technical foul. That's crazy. It's not like the players are trying to shatter the backboard. There have got to be barely any examples of a player actually trying to shatter the backboard when they dunk. It is almost always an accident, so taking the basket away and giving them a technical foul is beyond crazy. The free throw is a crucial element of any NBA game. However, what you might not know is that NBA players only have a certain amount of time to take a free throw. Once you are given the ball, the player has no longer than 10 seconds to take the free throw, or else you are penalized. The free throw gets taken off the player and the team if they take longer than 10 seconds to shoot the ball. You probably haven't heard of this rule before, and that is no surprise because it is barely ever actually broken in the NBA.
It's okay to use it early in the game. Most coaches want to save it, but often you never use it. And a 10-second violation called on Antetokounmpo.
10 seconds is more than enough time for most NBA players to go through their complicated free throw routine and then shoot. Dwight Howard is one of the few guys penalized for taking too long on a free throw. It's not just free throws where the NBA has strict guidelines, but each team also has to use their timeouts. While each team receives 6 timeouts, there is a rule stating that teams must use 4 of their 6 timeouts throughout the game, as well as saving one for the fourth quarter. The NBA made this decision to install this rule for a pretty simple reason: no not player safety or to even the playing field. It's for money. By forcing teams to take their timeouts, TV networks can air their commercials throughout the game. This brings in more money for the networks, which in turn brings in more money for the NBA. So you might think the league is always trying to produce the best product possible, but that's not really the case. If you thought being forced to use your timeouts was strange, then what's next is insane. Did you know that if a player fouls out, then there is a chance that the player could stay in the game? When an NBA team is reduced to just 5 players, then a player cannot foul out. Instead, when the player who fouls out commits another foul, the team is charged with a technical foul as well as the personal foul. So the other team gets to shoot an extra free throw every time the player who fouls out commits another foul. Crazily enough, it does also technically mean that NBA players can commit more than 6 fouls in a single game without having to leave the game. Probably one of those rules that you will hear about, but you're not going to see very often in the league. We might have saved the strangest rule for last. Even the newest NBA fan must know that you are not allowed to punch anyone in an NBA game, or anywhere really. But what you might not know is that you are also not allowed to punch the basketball. Hitting the ball with a closed fist is strangely enough considered an offense in the NBA, and a foul will be given for it. It actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Well, NBA players are pretty big and pretty powerful. If they were to put their full power into punching a basketball, then it could do a lot of damage to anyone sitting in the stands or even an official. So probably just a good idea for NBA players to avoid punching anything. Those were the NBA rules that you didn't know exist. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. While you're down there, why not smash that like button and subscribe? If you like this video, then you'll absolutely love this video on the screen about insane things NBA players spend their money on. Click that one next.